We are live, and it is the Pundit's Pundit. Welcome. It is another Wednesday night, the loaded Wednesday night slate with all the great shows on Sideline Sports on the night. And this one right here, we bring the latest and the greatest in deep conversations that are off the field, off the court, sometimes on the field, on the court, but it transcends, moments and stats and so forth. We go, to the deep-rooted issues and whatnot. Anyway, I am your modifier, Denzel Snipes, and we're going to go off script here for just a second. So a while back, there was a guest that was on Pundit Views, and he expressed the dream to become a sportscaster. First of all, for the youth that's always aspiring to be something positive and something meaningful, a sane human being would never, ever be against that. Well, as of late, he actually experienced some online bullying and trolling, which is something that we do not play about. But this isn't my rant or anything like that. I'm going to give the floor to Jacob Christner and let him express his thoughts about it.
Ashton Cole, how's it going, buddy? I know you're watching, or you're going to be watching in just a second. We'll bring something to you here. You see this head? Size 8. Big head. I got called melon head all my darn all my darn childhood. But you know something? It just means I'm smarter. Period. End of story. And I'm going to bring this part also to you. You want to know what you do? And I heard that you had some issues. You know what you do? You dare to dream. You dare to dream. You sing. You play guitar. You have some fun. There's cool things that you want to do. You know what I'm saying? You want to have fun and you want to dream. And you want to know what these trolls do? They don't think about that. They didn't dream. They didn't do anything. They get their checks every 2 weeks and barely survive. And then they regret it. So they try to knock someone like you down who wants to dream. And I'm going to bring this, and I'll tell you this part. I'm going to give this to you for a second. Jay, come on up. Put Scott up too. I want you to see this for a second. You see that guy right there, Jay, Denzel? You see that right there? That guy went to war. He is cool as hell. He went to the military. He's got your back. This guy right here, Scott, and then with Candy, they own a newspaper. They own a media conglomerate. They own this. They dared to dream. You see what I'm saying right here? They all have your back, just like I have your back. We want to make darn sure you understand that anybody that's trolling, the online bullying, that's any of that kind of stuff, we'll just say right now, they're losers. They aren't worth your time. You know what you do? You ignore them. You go on and do cool things. You go on and go do some cool music. You go win some awards. You do all that stuff in your lifetime. You get yourself on ESPN and go change ESPN or make ASPN even bigger than ESPN. ASPN, it would be Ashton Sports Production Network. Mm-hmm. You go make that even bigger. And don't you ever worry, because we're always going to have your back. Is that right, Denzel?
Yes, absolutely. And just as the same avenues that you use to reach Jacob Christner, understand that you can use the same to reach myself, Miss Candy down here, or Scott. Anytime you need to reach out to us, you let us know. We will be more than happy to provide guidance, mentorship, and to help you in any endeavor that you wish to be on, as long as it's legal. But any endeavor you wish to be on, you want to be a sportscaster, just like you said, you want to sing and everything like that. Be the greatest version of you can be. The greatest version of you that you can be. Don't get caught up in idolizing and trying to be the next Billy Joel or Michael Jordan or something like that. You can only be the next Ashton. Be the next you.
He's 9 years old. Who? Go ahead, Scott.
All right, one thing I want to add to this whole thing is many years ago, when I had the dream of doing it, I used to do play-by-play of the Detroit Red Wings at my aunt's house, and I used to go to Tiger Stadium to do play-by-play in the bleachers. So you know what? Go out there, build yourself up a little bit of a tape or whatever, and find something to do. And let me tell you something, my friend, the sky is the limit. So I just want to make sure that those words of encouragement are getting in there. And I've always wanted to be in the media. And like you alluded to, I get it on both ends, on the written side and the broadcast side. So as Martin Luther King once said, I have a dream. Well, so do you.
Yep. Miss Candy, you got anything to add?
Ashton, the reason why they're doing that is because they're jealous because you're doing more than they ever did. And trust me, it's coming from someone. I grew up, my name was Candy. You can't tell me people didn't pick on me. Oh, Candy, how sweet are you? And all this stuff. They picked on me. But you know what? You don't let it bother you because they're just jealous of you. So just shrug it off and be the best version of you can.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so yeah, shout out to you, buddy. Keep doing great things. Keep being a trailblazer because we all have the full faith in you to go be great. And with that being said, if you would direct your attention to the bottom of the screen, ladies and gents, you are probably catching us on one of the 3 platforms right here. That is YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, which is awesome. Just know that you can catch us on the other 2, or whichever, from whatever one you're watching right now. So absolutely hit that like button, but more importantly, hit the subscribe button to your friendly neighborhood Sideline Sports, because it's more than just the Pundit's Pundit. It's Pundit Views, which is also by way of Mr. Jacob Christner. It's also Gauntlet. It's the Sports Arena. It's the Sideline Sports Show. It's the Rude Dog Show, the Unfiltered Truth, Ball Don't Lie, the South Florida Tribune's very own Sports Exchange. Coming up next after this, which is hosted by Scott. Candy will be there. Jacob, he's always the college kid on the couch raiding Scott's fridge. He's always on the show. But we have a plethora of shows on Sideline Sports. So please feel free to hit that subscribe button. And now we'll go on to our first topic. And that is, and I'm pretty sure this is Jacob.
Of course it is.
The Las Vegas Aces are currently being investigated for under-the-table payments. Since when has a WNBA team turned into a version of an NCAA squad? But hey, is it really sports if something isn't going on? You know, I don't know. People love a good juicy little thing, but I you know what? I'll let Jacob tell it because you know it was his pick. So go ahead and lead us into this one, Jake.
Well, you know something is like you have to wonder all this. You have to wonder if Mark Davis is bringing all. You know, if the whole idea of Mark Davis and if there's the idea of Dan Snyder's bringing this kind of stuff out. Right. If there's a little sneak attacks in this way, but you got to realize also what would happen. What would happen if what would happen though if if they got paid more? Now, this is what I'm saying. It's like, is this happening? Because everybody knows this part about tennis. Everybody knows this part about tennis. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It pays very low. Indeed, it pays very low if you're not Roger Federer, if you're not Rafael Nadal, if you're not top 10, top 20, any of those. If you're not any of those, it pays very low. So there are a lot of tennis players that do their own betting for and against themselves. And I mean, if they're in the futures tournaments or the futures or any of the other tournaments, they do that. So guess what? Is the WNBA into this? Where they're getting, and here's the question: are there some players betting against themselves? We don't know. I mean, one of the highest paid players is $220,000 a year.
I think that's like the max salary, huh? Or 300,000.
Yeah, I would believe that 60 to 80 would be their average.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it picks up. They saw what happened with Brittany Griner. Well, instead of going to hostile territory and playing ball, I think I'm gonna get into gambling because I would rather take my chances in, I don't know, paying a hefty fine versus being caught up in a literal war zone and not knowing if I should come home. If I'm gonna come home. If faced with those odds, I think anybody on this screen would pick gambling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's not. We're just gambling is just that's a guess. You know what I'm saying? But we're
right. I'm just making an example. Yeah.
Yeah. Under the table payments, all that kind of stuff. A little bit of cash can't be taxed. You know, what if by itself? And you got to remember about this: the male athletes. They get so much money, even the 12th men and everything like that. Look at the amount of money it takes to feed an athlete. Look at the training of an athlete. Look at the travel of an athlete. Look at all this kind of stuff. they're probably, I'm talking right then and there, they're probably breaking even after everything.
Yeah.
Even the 220 grand.
And you know, and going back to one of the topics from last week or 2 weeks ago, you know, you got an NBA player, and you know, you got to think they're being fed, they're training, they got, you know, unless you're LeBron, who spends like $1 million a year on his own like diet and training, right? Like, you got the facilities, you got the cafeteria, all that is like on the team, right? You know, the flights and everything, like all that's on the team. Meanwhile, WNBA like chartering their own flights now, remember? You know, so
exactly.
take that into consideration.
I tell you, that's what they wanted. They truly wanted that. They wanted to get that. So it's like, here's the thing. How bad off are the payments, or how bad off is the money in the WNBA as far as getting paid if they are getting under the table payments and they're asking for charter flights instead of being on, you know, like a coach or even like first class? How bad is it really? And now we hear about this. And of course, did Dan Snyder sneak it? Who knows? Because it's Mark Davis's team.
It is, absolutely. It might be a part of the whole, you know, dirt. Some Dan Snyder might have knocked over the trash can, and oh shoot, look at that on the floor, you know. But I want to bring it to Candy and get your thoughts about this. On what do you think is going on, and what your angle is on this.
Let's face it, women have always been paid less in just about any field, whether you're talking sports or non-sports, and the opportunities that we're given are not as prevalent either. Would I fault them? Let's face it. How many big WNBA stars are there that are getting endorsement deals? You don't see them as many. You see the big, you know, the Kevin Durant's, you see Patrick Mahomes, you see that, you know, they get the big endorsement deals, not WNBA players. We talked about a couple weeks ago about how they played a tournament in a hotel lobby, and then there wasn't anybody there for medical when someone went down. Like, women just, they're not treated the same. And I understand we don't draw the same, but that doesn't mean we should be as undervalued and underpaid comparatively.
Absolutely. You know, it's been, you know, great point. Anything from corporate America, like, to even on down to the like baseline, like average, like the average salary in the United States, right? Like, women are like significant, unless it's like, you know, an hourly wage or whatever. But salary wise, yeah, historically women have been paid less. But I want to swing it over to Scott and get your thoughts on this. What do you think about this whole ordeal?
Well, here's the thing. As I understand, Brittany Griner got paid $165,000 recently to play this year. 165 grand. I saw that recently. If she's worth $165,000, what do you think the rest of them are worth, knowing that she's considered elite? Number two, anything that Mark Davis gets his hands on, let's face it, he got Las Vegas to build him a stadium because he was broke, okay, is what he did. So, you know, let's face the reality. A Davis is a Davis. And as a result, you know, he doesn't have any money. And, you know, the WNBA, unfortunately, you know, they're not a very big winning proposition anyways, because of the fact that they are so much more underpaid. And a lot of people view this WNBA as nothing more than a filler on the summer schedule is all it really is. It's not anything that's drawn out more than that. So when you put it all in perspective between that, and also think about the women's national team, those endorsement deals are going to the people like Julie Fowley and a few of those other ones, and as they should be, because they've won World Cups in the past. So if you put it all in perspective, you know, does it bother me that they're being underpaid? No, but remember, this is happening in Las Vegas too, okay? And what happens in Vegas based on reputation is what it is. Why do you think the NFL moved to Vegas? Because they knew it was a money-making proposition. They all know gambling's there. Why do you think they're getting the Super Bowl next year? Mm-hmm. So in terms of the WNBA, no, nothing that Mark Davis does surprises me at all. And I think that the WNBA does get disrespected a great deal, but what can you do about it? There isn't a whole lot you can do anyhow. So,
yeah.
You know,
well, remember what I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jay.
No. I was just going to say real fast, you know, that's an interesting point you made, Scott, because you got to think, why didn't Las Vegas get a team so many years before? you know,
Right.
like world-renowned city, right? Known for its nightlife, gambling, like, you know, the sites and everything. Why didn't have it? Let this sink in. And this is not I'm throwing a shot or anything like that, but let this sink in that 30 years ago, or almost 30 years ago, Jacksonville, Florida got an NFL team before Las Vegas.
Well, gambling wasn't a widely respected practice. And here's where I can go with this. Detroit has a couple of casinos there. What are they going to do? Lions to move out? No. Okay.
No,
That's
that
number
wasn't
one.
happen.
It's already there. In Las Vegas, it took the NHL, to make the dive into there with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they've done pretty well at T-Mobile Arena. And
Yes.
now I don't know whether an NBA team ever gets there or not. Time will tell. We could probably save that for another night. But the NFL has put Vegas on the pro map. They really have. More so than the NHL, because let's face it, the NFL is valued so much more than the NHL. Now, don't get me wrong, the NHL got their foot in the door, so it paved the way for football to go there. And I wouldn't be surprised if MLB ends up there within the next few years with the way the Oakland A's situation is unfolding.
Yeah, they're saying that. Oh, the A's may go there.
But the NBA, I think, is a little ways out, but they have their summer league there, so there's a presence there. So, somebody had to take a chance in Vegas. The NHL did. The NFL came in. MLB will be next. NBA down the line, and they have the summer league. So they're essentially one of the hottest growing markets, a very economic town, which is booming by the second. They can put up music concerts. I've seen events in Vegas, heavyweight fights over there, and it's unreal. I mean, so, I guess not trying to get off point too much here. The reality is if they are being investigated for under table payments, who in their right mind is in Vegas isn't being investigated? And by the way, if that isn't good enough, O.J. Simpson got thrown in the slammer there too.
There, he sure did. I'm sorry, real quick, Jacob.
Yeah.
To add on to your point, Scott, is another thing that draws teams, like in general, is success. So I'll add on to the fact that not only was it the Vegas Golden Knights going to Vegas and starting off there, but they made the Stanley Cup in their inaugural season.
Oh, yeah.
And they did. And one of the things about it also, you were bringing up why didn't they get it before then? You got to realize, Jay, Jimmy the Greek Snyder, and Scott knows this one. Jimmy the Greek Snyder got on CBS for 3 years before he got himself fired. And he had to pick teams. He couldn't even do point spreads. They literally had to pick teams at the end of every NFL pregame show on the NFL Today. And I was around watching it. I was watching. He was choosing teams, and he was because he's such a gambler, he wanted to be able to do point spread, but he was like the Bears, that sort of thing.
Well, here's a little trivia though, Jacob. Yeah. George Eichhorn and I had Jimmy the Greek Snyder on a show many years ago on Sports Talk at ABC Radio. And one of the best things I've ever seen Snyder do to lay an egg was when he thought the Rams were going to pound the Lions when Billy Sims came out and the Lions waxed the Rams. I said, well, Jimmy, I guess you know what? I'm glad I'm not old enough to gamble, but you must have taken a hit on this pick.
Yeah.
He probably did, yeah.
But I'm saying they had that. But you know what you want to know what brought sports to Las Vegas truly? COVID. You got to realize, you got to give you an understanding of this. First time around, 2008, the gambling went down because of the economic collapse. It went bad. 2020, COVID. It almost bankrupted it again. That's 12 years and 2 disasters. Yeah. The biggest thing about it is sports will never go down. That's the thing by itself. If nothing else, even if they would shut it down for 3-4 months again, if nothing else, there's always going to, in Las Vegas, it's going to be like the video game things. The esports. There's always going to be something in Vegas now. That's the reason it all came to Vegas, because if they didn't, it would die. 2 disasters in 12 years, they couldn't take it again.
They can't.
So you've got to bring sports in.
Yeah, you absolutely had to. Well, now's a good time to.
Let me add one point. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Professional boxing went ahead and put Vegas on the map, and now UFC's involved. But I'm going to tell you, many years ago when I used to go to Vegas, I would end up, if I didn't want to be in the casinos. A lot of the players don't like being in the casino because they'll blow their money quicker. But I used to go over, take trips, helicopter rides, and plane rides over to the Grand Canyon. And I used to take a ride over to Boulder City, Bullhead City, and Laughlin so I could drive around instead of being stuck in the casino. So the casinos are a good deviation for people trying to get away, or sports is a deviation for people that want to get away. And, but now Vegas has had to adapt to the times where you have to be more than just a gambler. And that's why they're building these fancy hotels with more and more things to do to cater to families. Just thought I'd throw that out there. So.
Okay, not bad at all. Well, we're going to go ahead and let's ski that along to our next topic, and this is a pretty odd one too. Luka Doncic is the first athlete to have an AI chess bot. I'm not too familiar with chess bots. Jake, this is yours?
Yeah, of course. They're doing a little thing on basically chess.com, and you get your own bot, and he's getting paid for his image. Mm-hmm. And he's a big chess player, which I love chess myself. Remember, I told you one of the nights I missed the slam dunk contest because I'm playing chess with my nephew. Mm-hmm. Which I didn't do. Which I obviously did not regret. It was a great thing, but it's like you can't beat that amount of time with him, with your nephew. But the biggest thing about this is this just shows there's another way of making money now. AI, artificial intelligence, is gonna be another way. There's gonna be. We have a little Bitmoji thing, which is gonna be a part of our the Basket Bros thing pretty soon. Like with our logo. That's just Bitmoji. I saw my Bitmoji and it's all blonde and I look about 22, which I'm not. but I'm saying, you just look at this. It's like our images by itself. All we had to do is go on a free app and put our image there. It's like, and just look. And someone else made an artificial intelligence deal with Luka. Look how many different. It's not your image. It used to be. You got to realize Hulk Hogan years ago won a lawsuit against let's see, what was it, Post, I believe, because they had the cereal. They made bulk Boulder on the thing, and that was an image.
It was an image, yeah.
That was an image thing, and he wins big. And it's like because they couldn't get to that, they couldn't use it anymore, and they had to shut it down. That was an image, but that was an animation image. Look how many different ways. And it's like, and then he also, even back in the time before he got big, they made an image of him. Hulk Hogan's image has been in like 65 video games. It's like the all-time biggest.
Yeah. There are a lot of clones out there.
It's more Mario.
Hulk Hogan's, huh? Oh, no, I said there's a lot of clones out there. And actually, there was another lawsuit some time ago it was in England. It was in England, and there was a billboard that was advertising something, but it said, and no kidding, it said like shoot the rapper, win a prize. And the rapper on the billboard, it was an image of 50 Cent. And 50 actually sued him.
Yeah.
Also considering 50's been shot in his life, so yeah, there's that.
Yeah. And those were the things, but I'm just saying that was an image. See, that was an image of him, a legitimate that you get a picture. Mm-hmm. It's like, and then you had the animation version, which would be, and they stupidly call it bulk Boulder. Duh. And it's like, they did that. But what now can we get with AI, with image? You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're right about that, Will. That's true. And it's like, and what are you going to get right now? And is there going to be more lawsuits later on something like that? Could someone create an AI image or something like that when it's already trademarked or patented or any of those? And it's like, and it's like he's got his own chess bot. And here's what we're going to find out. We will now find out how many athletes play chess because there's going to be more that follow.
Right. So, while I swing it over to Candy here, I got a question for you. Let's do a time shift here, okay? Let's say we had this technology in the 90s, okay? And I want you to answer, and then I'm going to ask the same thing to Scott because I know he's chomping at the bit when I say this. What do you think would have happened? How do you think it would have been if Dennis Rodman had a chess bot?
Gosh. Oh, I can only imagine that one.
It'd be 8-bit.
Yeah, you're right. I am chomping at the bit for this one. Among other things, but okay. That's okay. Denzel knows me pretty well after how many umpteen broadcasts. It doesn't matter.
Go ahead, Candy.
He would jump at the chance for that thing. I could just imagine what he would have as his image, you know. I mean, he was a trendsetter. He wanted to, you know, be a bad boy, and he has that kind of a reputation. Scott?
Yeah.
All right. Where do I start with this one? Number one, I don't know. Get ready. Well, here, let me respond to something what Will said first, okay? We know it's a mind game, and Luka plays mind games with defense. Guess what? Jason Kidd is playing mind games with him and telling him to stop arguing with the officials, getting him in trouble. And as a result, he's going to go turn to Kyrie Irving in an effort to teach him a lesson. That's item number one. Number two, like you, Jacob, okay, chess is my favorite game. I played in life, and I am dangerous with it on the road, on the interstate. Oh, goodness, I take it chess. So I played in life, okay, and I have a lot of fun. It was always my favorite board game growing up. I have to tell you a funny story, though. I mean, this is as funny as it gets. The only one I could never beat at chess was one of my uncles who was a convicted felon who had more time to practice behind bars or in the, what do you call it, the hotel version of prison. And when he came out for a brief tenure, I couldn't get past 3 moves. I said, I told him, Uncle so-and-so, you know why I can't beat you? Because when you're sitting there with nothing to do, you might as well master something. And obviously I didn't have a prayer when he came out. But as far as Dennis Rodman is concerned, yeah. You know, I mean, he was one of my good friends. I always leaned on him during the Bad Boys eras when I needed a good interview. He always had my back. You know, I mean, there's certain people when you develop relationships in a locker room. And he was definitely one of my favorites that I turned to all the time. But, yeah, he would have had a field day with this concept. He really would. And if he had a chess bot, I want to get involved with it, I would have definitely picked my man Dennis, because we played bowling many years ago. And, you know, he laughed at me because I won a most unusual form trophy many years ago playing bowling. And I said, you know, he said, man, your form is really strange, man. I said, well, it's probably as good as your free throw shooting. And he laughed at me because we had that kind of a working relationship.
Right.
So we played 2 games. In the end, I ended up winning the second. He won the first, and he paid the bill. So, it was I didn't care about $5 to $7. It was just bragging rights between him and I. That's all it was.
The thing about Dennis Rodman is I can absolutely see him being a ringer in some kind of park in New York, in Central Park in New York. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just the guy with the colored hair. And then I could whip him, and I can see him whipping everybody around the park. I can see him play a B ring like that because I think he's very, very smart.
But yet the ironic part about it was when I was working with him in Detroit, okay, and he was under Chuck Daly, he was as straight as an arrow. He really was. It wasn't until his father figure, Chuck Daly, left that Dennis started to go the other way. So
right.
Made more money doing it too. So
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was both a gift and a curse, you know.
Think about Dennis Rodman for one last second, okay? You ready for this? Here's a guy that wanted to go to North Korea and was friends with the prime minister or whatever, but they advised him not to go there, I believe. So, you know, I mean, this guy definitely lived over the edge. But he was a master of the mind games. He was on the court. He was. And bear in mind, okay, the Pistons got 2 championships as a result. Michael Jordan got 3, and Dennis in the Hall of Fame. He couldn't play offense worth a lick, but he rebounded and played defense better. And if you look at his track record when he left, most of the teams he left ended up going down south, and they were in the NBA draft lottery. So.
Yeah, that is true. It was just that lasting effect that he had. Well, we're at the midway point of the show. So we are actually going to take a quick commercial break and let these folks see once again, the plethora of shows that we have on the Sideline Sports Network. We will see you in 36 seconds. right, those are our wonderful lineup of shows. So please, once again, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to Sideline Sports. Talk about a tongue twister. Subscribe to Sideline Sports. He sells she shells by the seashore, and and
Unique
take
New
a
York, unique New York, unique New York. You know,
unique New York, unique, yeah, you need
Yeah.
unique New York. Yes, I promise you, we're not going to be doing tongue twisters on all our shows or anything. But like I said, the Gauntlet, Unfiltered Truth, Ball Don't Lie, Sideline Sports, Sports Arena, you name it, we got it. We are the people's four-letter organization over there. We're a lot more laid back. We're a lot more real. So hey, give us a shot. Cut us on while you're cleaning your house, or just sit down with a box of popcorn and just watch us on TV. I promise you, we're entertaining. So on to our next one, and that is hazing and high school sports. This probably should have been a topic sometime last year, but
it's happening
Jacob,
still though.
It is. Jacob, I know this is yours. What made you bring this one in?
Oh yeah. There are high school teams right now, and there's high school teams that are shutting down for the year. College teams shutting down for the year because of this. They're hazing. They're starting to haze. They're starting to get these kids. They're hurting these kids, and even worse, the hazing is sexual.
Yes,
they're sticking the things that do not belong in places that do not belong. If you would get the point, and that is part of their hazing. And it's 18-year-olds doing it to 14-year-olds. And it's like, and see, this is the main part of the hazing that we keep reading. And here's the thing I'm going to say. It's how sexually repressed is somebody to think like that with a 14-year-old kid, with a 14-year-old kid, and you're 18 and you're doing this kind of stuff. And it's, boys doing this to boys. It's like, here's the thing. Hazing used to be getting them drunk,
and even that went too far at one point. And even that went too far at one point.
Yeah, that went forward because the kids would die. But at least that was that part. Now it's just getting ugly. And it's like, how repressed are the kids? I mean, and is it truly? Here's the thing. I have a question with. Is it that you get 7-year-olds that have the thing to porn? They have access to porn so darn fast. This isn't the 11-year-old with the Playboy anymore. It's like you can get on digital and you can see the millions of images right away. Is that what's making them repressed?
I was about to say, I think the internet has to do with it, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, how repressed do you have to be? Because it's the thing. Bill Maher said it himself. Second base to these people is considered choking. Third base, anal.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's because of porn. That's because of porn, and it's like, and that's the big thing. It's like I said, it's not just looking at the bodies and looking at a poster from the deal. You know what I'm saying? It's not just that. It's not just. I mean, that's healthy for a 11, 12-year-old to look at that, because you're seeing that for the first time on a healthy young woman. But now you're seeing ugly things at such a young age, and see, that's where that's going.
Yeah. And it gets even worse, with hazing, because, nowadays, because you have, the internet, and, it used to be that people would just kind of spread your name all around the school and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But nowadays, they're getting on platforms and they can spread your name to like way more people than that. So like, yeah, they're kind of putting in their heads, yeah, you don't do this, well, you must be less than such and such, and they can just spread their names. I mean, this is just me. I just feel like the internet like made that worse. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna swing it over to Candy and get your thoughts about this, because I know, we remember a time when, and I'm not saying like, there was some hazing that was kind of harmless. You know what I mean? Like, we hazed in the military, right? But we never harmed anybody. We never like choked anybody or anything like that. Like, I'll give you an example, okay? And we didn't even like call it hazing. So we had this tradition in our career field where if we were at an overseas tour, right, and we knew whenever they were like leaving, either to PCS to another station, retire, or separate the military, we knew when they're like, we can kind of guess when their last day of work was. And as a means of congratulation, we like kind of like handcuff them to a pole. Then we take like a bunch of mustard and eggs and stuff and just kind of like throw it on them and get them on, But they left with a gross uniform, but no one got hurt. No one got sick. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, Candy, your thoughts,
I think this has started a long time ago. I think people don't respect other people because we're not taught to respect other people. I think
Mhm.
it starts at home. And I think my dad retired early from teaching because he didn't feel that, and he taught in the high school, that students respected him. He didn't even think that the parents respected him. When he would talk to the parents and he would say, your kid is doing this. Oh no, that couldn't be my kid. My kid. Let me ask my kid, and they're going to believe the kid over the parent. You've got to start teaching, going back to basics and teaching respect from the young age, that you respect everybody. That's why part of this, and I hate to say that going all the way, and this takes it to a different level, but all the mass murders and stuff like that, because people don't respect other people's lives. They're
That's
upset
true.
with the world, and they're going to take it out on the world and everybody else. It started a long time ago when TV, I mean, you remember shows like the Cosby Show and like that were wholesome, good, fun laughter shows.
Right.
Now look at soap operas, look at the movies, look at how far we've taken things and what we come to expect, and we want to see. We want to see violence. We want to see the sex on the TV. That's what sells. That's what, and that's what society has said is okay. So we've changed you know, we've changed what used to look like the great American family, and now look, it could be anything. But we're watching TV, we're watching shows that promote some of all of this. And I
Right.
think the lack of respect that it has shown, plus the internet, makes a huge difference, because now, hey, like you said, I can put this out on the internet and everybody can see it and be embarrassed, as opposed to it was just the people that witnessed it in this classroom.
Exactly. And I'll also add to your point, I think a lot of it is pride. And the way I'm going to bridge this, and then I'll go right to you, Scott, is it used to be a point in time where if somebody called like someone's parent, right, and was like, yo, your kid did this or whatever, and it was like absolutely true, right? Like they would check the kid, you know? But nowadays, it's like, yo, your kid did this, it was horrible. And it's like, nah, you must be effing lying. You know what I mean? And they'll sit there and they'll fight it tooth and nail because, that pride is letting them know if this is true, which I don't want to find out about or whatever, then that must make me a bad parent or something like that. And in that instance, they're like thinking about themselves. Like, I can kind of like see that. But I want to swing it to Scott and get your thoughts about this.
Well, first of all, I'm glad we talked about it on a college level last week when we brought up New Mexico State University, because if those people get wind of it, they could shut a program down. We just need a whole lot more of those. Number two, we know darn well the internet's a contributor to all of this stuff. I mean, when we were growing up, the good old days, as I'll call them, okay, we didn't have to deal with all this social media to expose all of societal's problems. Now, where it gets interesting with everything here, okay, is think about it for a moment. And I mean, really, really think about it. When you have a guy pitching Subway like Jared Fogle, okay, out there soliciting porn with kids, and then Jerry Sandusky with Penn State, this is absurd. I mean, think about it. Now Fogle wrecked his marriage, right? And his reputation is really shot. And you know what? One thing about people from I've heard in prison is if they think you're a child molester, they're gonna go after you, and they did early on
Mm-hmm.
until they had to move him to a different place. And Jerry Sandusky had to get moved over to the death row area to avoid him getting pounded on. And we saw Penn State have to deal with a serious scandal here. So I
Yeah.
think what comes down to put it in perspective is this, okay? More and more programs have to be shut down. And and Candy's dad got out at the right time. I mean, things have simply got out of control, anyways. If you can't reach a student because the parents are always defending them, that the kids can do wrong, and you don't respect, you always have a time and place when you know you have to leave something. And this hazing stuff, I've seen it on outside the lines. and other places. It's absurd. I don't know what these people think they're going to get, an 18 and a 14-year-old. Really? I
Yeah.
mean, so at what point or another do the principals, assistant principals, and counselors get involved to try to protect the individuals that are considered as victims? Now, where's the accountability with principals, assistant principals, and all these people? I haven't seen it yet. And until we can get positive publicity on the internet, because we all know it's bad anyway, you need to see something. Hell, you know what, guys? We dealt with a mass shooting February 14th a few years ago over at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas that this community really hasn't fully recovered from, all because you had one shooting after another, and then all of a sudden some whack job here in our neck of the woods decides to go out there and affect the community, which I don't think will ever totally recover from it. So where am I going with it? Hazing, whatever. This could get even more dangerous if it doesn't get stopped real soon. And we're talking high schools now. We're all known as other places. Something has to stop, and somebody take control.
It does.
Well, what happened?
And
Well, here's the thing. What happened also? Here's something that happened also with this. We used to teach overcoming. You overcome the bully. You overcome this. Knock them in the nose and walk away. You teach them to, or you walk away, or you teach them to be laugh, or if you can't fight, you make them laugh. You teach. Everything was meant for overcoming the odds, for overcoming everything. Now victimhood is currency. Victimhood is currency in this world. Why do you think Pete Davidson is shown on every media thing ever, getting every woman? But I'm just saying this. You don't know who you know who would have been shown if it was today's thing back in the day? Jason Statham. He would have been shown in that. See, because you already saw what the badasses did at. You know what I'm saying? They did those things. It would have been Jason Statham of this day back in those days. Well, but now it is anybody that admits that he's got 50 pills, depressed as all get out, constant victim, always needs, and he's soft, and it's all that kind of. And it's like, and then you get the Billy Porters, and then you get Timothy Chalamet, who says, "I'm not a boy or a girl. I'm this." You get all of this stuff. Everything is victimhood. It's not overcoming. It's not everything is soft. Everything they are trying to absolutely murder masculinity for real. Yeah. So then the kids who kids who want to, okay, they would like to be able to fight back. They're going to get in trouble at school more. And then, and it's like, and it's those type of things. We have whacked out issues. We have whacked out issues with the whole thing. It is as simple as fighting back, and stuff like that, and getting the respect. That's what it is when you're growing up, because you have to fight back, get respect in the working world. Yeah. You have to be able to do that. And it is as simple as that they took that away. And everything is a victim. See, because everything is a victim, because you look at schools right now, they'll even say we need, let's see, Sam, remember the guy from FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried? Mm-hmm. His own mom wrote a dissertation saying that we need to take away blame from criminals. We don't need to say blame. Just because there's different ideas. We don't need to blame anybody. So she wrote that all those years ago. And it's like, and so you're going to get a set of kids that are in constant victimhood. And so the victimhood, the bullies are the victims, the victims are the victims. You don't know who is going to do it. And then they will shame the masculine, the ones that will protect, they will shame the masculine. They will the ones that will protect the masculine men that want to protect their wives. They shame that. They will even shame the wives that want to be traditional housewives. They're
doing it now.
They do it now, and there are traditional. See, you want to know who doesn't care? The farm girls in the Midwest. They don't care. They're working all the time, so they don't care. It's like we talked about the Ash tonight. It's like they're not. See, they're doing things, so they don't care. But it's like they'll shame everything, because when bullies are victims, everybody's a victim. Who is allowed to have room to be to overcome? And that's what I'm saying there.
Well, let me give you two interesting stories back in my days in grade school. Number one, I'll never forget when I went to Hebrew school, and I don't mind mentioning this guy's name. I could care less about names way back when. Named Gerald Blaze used to really give me a hard time over in Hebrew school. And he continued to do it here and there. And, I dealt with it. I mean, But then what happened was we ended up in the same junior high. Okay, this is a different situation. It was the second day that I entered junior high. I saw this guy. And you know what happened? I grabbed him by the shirt and threw him into the wall as hard as you can throw a guy. It started pounding the living daylights out of this guy. And you know, I told him, I said, you thought you had the upper hand on me in Hebrew school? Well, guess what, pal? Guys like me that don't forget people and hold a grudge, what you did before, definitely, I never forgot it. And I mean, I God, okay, you'd be proud of me. I threw him up against the wall and pounded mercifully with this guy. I went to the principal's office. I told the principal, you know what? I hold a grudge against anybody that attempts to bully me, number one. The second story was when I moved to an entirely different school district, okay, and I'll never forget my woodshop class, this guy named Jeffrey Maslick, okay. Hey, we got a new guy here. You can pick on him instead. Boy, great. I went from a predominantly Jewish school, okay, now to this particular place. And I heard that. What do you think happened the second day? I grabbed him and beat the living hell out of him. And you know what? Nobody liked this guy, actually. And I made friends pretty quick. And I ended up throwing him around the workshop, took him outside, and decided I can police this on my own. And for a new guy that went into a new school district, okay, I made a lot of friends there, and a lot of them thanked me for pounding on them. But the reality is, you don't have to take anybody's crap, okay? There's always a time and a place. And the reason why I'm bringing those two instances up is we're talking about the high school aspect about how much we're going to tolerate, you follow me? Or junior high in this case. And I don't forget anybody to me, okay, that attempts to make my life a little bit more uncomfortable, which is why I brought these instances up. In high school, junior high, it doesn't matter, you know. You got to stand your ground is what you really have to do.
Yeah.
Those instances, I just wanted to share those two stories with you. I wanted to.
Okay, then no, not a problem at all. Always and notice, you know, in those two stories, you know, it was you highlighted, you know, one of Jacob's points, and that's, you know, the point of overcoming. And maybe that is something that, you know, needs to be highlighted more today is, you know, overcoming. You would think in a society, an American society that loves an underdog story, that overcoming should like never go out of style, right? So
Right.
So, you know, that maybe that does, you know, indeed need to be brought back and need to be fashionable again. But
Well,
we got a little bit.
It was been 10 years ago. They even blasted on Tim Tebow. They were just.
They did.
It was fun to make. Again, he wasn't the greatest
Timmy-
quarterbacks, but
Timmy was an easy target.
Yeah, but
We'll call that right now. He was an easy target.
Okay, he's an easy target. He also helped create children's hospitals in Philippines, and it's like in those, it's little things like that. It's like anyway. That's what Scott did way back when.
Jacob, it's amazing the different things you learn about me on these broadcasts, right, my man?
Right. That's what that noise was. What Scott did all those years ago.
I didn't get to gray hair because I didn't experience it yesterday. It took a close to 45, 47.
Until we get the production values, we have to kind of make it as we go.
Yeah, pretty much.
But no, Tebow did that. Tebow created that, and they're going to bash. And yeah, he's an easy target, but guess what? I mean, overcome constantly. He got to a playoff. He wins a playoff game.
He did.
Go ahead.
Think about that for a second, though. Is we've had like a plethora of average, below average quarterbacks who've had a season, won a playoff game, and then faded from obscurity. Tim Tebow literally is an NFL moment, like that whole season. You know what I mean? Like he literally, that playoff game, Tebow like never like played a meaningful down at quarterback, like past their loss to the Patriots or whatever. You know what I mean? He goes to the Jets, he kind of gets like thrown everywhere. Then he's like team to team, he gets bounced, he ends up going to ESPN and baseball, and back to ESPN and all of this, right? You know, but Tebow mania is in NFL lore. Like, regardless of how you may feel about him as a person, as an athlete, as a quarterback, Tebow mania will never leave the memories of at least those that were there to witness it, you know?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah.
all,
And that's
all
what
that
they
happened
did.
with Tim Tebow was he got sold by Rex Ryan to run the Wildcat and knew that there were endorsement opportunities in New York and not Jacksonville. Sorry, Jacob.
No, absolutely. But those are the things. It's like, here's the thing: if he's in the '80s, he's with Ditka. This is just the truth. If he's around the '80s, he's with Ditka. It's like, you don't think Ditka wouldn't want a 250-pound kid that runs over linebackers and plays as hard as he does. And look how many people had terrible. Look how many people had terrible throwing percentages anyway. Look how many people were that bad anyway, throwing percentage. He wouldn't have cared about the 47%. He would have just loved him. He would have probably had him run the ball 20 times and just said, "Oh, you and Walter Payton figure it out." That's all he'd be saying while we focus on the defense. He would have a time of his life watching it. It's like, I mean, he had, especially when he had to deal with Jim McMahon being 175 pounds and getting hurt all the time. He would have loved it too. He would have loved a 250-pound quarterback run over people.
Yeah, exactly. Candy, I know you had something to say. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is, we as a society label people. Look at you talk about overcoming Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, and look at what kind of season he had.
True.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very true.
Yeah, who was the guy that was the heavy quarterback over at Kentucky? Oh, I'm trying to remember.
The late Jared Lorenzen.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Hefty lefty.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, pal. But yeah, I could only imagine what Ditka would have been like with Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty.
Oh, I'll tell you.
He was 3. I think he was maybe 6'5". He was like 330 pounds, but he had a cannon.
Oh, I know.
He was like the poor man's Jamarcus Russell, if that makes any sense, but not as bad.
Yeah, but
it
wasn't a bust, though.
It was like food stamps. But
now that I think about it, I think it was like 350, but whatever, in the mid 300s. And I got news for you. I loved watching this guy be able to throw because he was so hard to bring down. Anyways, try to bring this guy down. You're gonna get sandwiched and hammered all rolled into one.
And the funny part,
if I was a coach, I would have a wide open hole where he could run for first down because darn good well he's going to gas out and then you can get him all day long.
Well, can you imagine if he got in a goal line, first and goal, how much you could push him across the goal line? And, to me, I can only imagine what that scenario was.
And in the NFL, it'll be a penalty now.
Yeah, right.
I want you to let that sink in for a second, that Jared Lorenzen actually won a Super Bowl ring with the 2007 New York Giants. So if you're keeping score at home, on the same roster, they had a 275-pound running back and a 300-plus pound quarterback.
Yeah, I think Tom Coughlin was the coach of that team, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Both squads.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Ditka special.
Quarterback. Hey, I got news for you. If you're Eli Manning and you had the hefty lefty backing you up, that was a pretty good quarterback room. When we know who bought all the meals, it was a hefty lefty.
It was a hefty lefty, yep. Real quick, because we do have to get Scott and you too, Jacob, on to the Sports Exchange. So last topic, real quick, and this is the Seattle Kraken's association with the Muckleshoot Indian tribe. Jake, go ahead and kick it off, man.
Well, yeah. This is kind of a cool deal. You will see a lot of pandering on the news. You see a lot of media. You see all this type of stuff. But we have to talk about, and you got to realize the Indian tribes are still amongst the poorest the people in the world to this day. And then for all the pandering that the media will do, so you can, again, the victimhood thing that we brought up, nothing helps with them. They still are amongst the highest in. They're amongst the highest in alcoholism, poor. They say poverty. They're amongst the highest in everything. So usually nothing happens. Well, in this case, they've got a patch. They have got a patch. They're the first tribe that's going to have a patch on the Seattle Kraken's jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have that right now, and they are doing those kind of associations. They're putting money out there. The Kraken are they are putting their money where their mouth is. And it's like, this is where I get mad at a media. Where I get mad at the media and watching and everything is, it's not, you don't get mad at them putting the name out there, you get or what's going on out there. You don't get mad at that.
No.
What you get mad at is that it's just, it's almost just like, okay, we're going to get the thing, then we're going to forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I've always brought this up with Vince McMahon. I brought it up with Vince McMahon that he had that he had all of the black stars pushed while the whole thing was going on with the brawls and with all the protests and everything like that. Then he did it, and then he silently left it.
Yeah.
He silently took it away. He just did the same thing once it all quieted down again.
Yeah.
See, there's no violence, there's no protests, there's no anything making this with the Indian tribes. Seattle's just doing it. And see, if we can learn as human beings, just do this. Let's just do. Let's just kind of do. Let's start to learn and start to understand and get this idea a little bit instead of listening to a media who will quit on you.
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't benefit them, who will quit on you and stuff like that. If we could just go do it. What's wrong with helping the tribe out? What's wrong with all this? Get a patch on there. Do what you can do. I mean, have any of you ever seen the Ted Lasso?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the part where the Nigerian kid he covers up the oil. He covers up the oil. Let's see. I'm trying. It's the oil company on his jersey.
Uh-huh.
He covers up the oil company on the jersey, and then everybody else gets to do that. See, there wasn't anything going on TV. There wasn't any of that kind of stuff. He just did, and everybody else followed. And then they got a new sponsor later. Every bit of that is what you got to do. That's the real story. It's not go into the media and go, let's have a story. Oh, the conservatives are bad. Oh, the liberals are so beautiful. We're the superheroes. Oh, no, you're the super. No, it's none of that. It's people doing whatever it is and wherever the goals are. It's people doing.
Exactly.
And that's what Seattle Kraken are doing right now.
It's always action above speech. Real quick, Candy, your thoughts on this?
I will admit I didn't know much, so I just Googled it. And one part of the partnership with the patch is that they're going to create a multi-sport court, which will be built on the reservation to increase the possibility for youth to learn and to practice on their own court, which I think is really cool. So yeah, the rest of the world gets the patch and we can see, but it brings more light to it being a partnership and then building, the court on the reservation so that the kids and the youth can learn how to play the game and what it takes. And that's where I think that's a blessing.
Awesome. Absolutely. Scott, on to you, and then we'll close out.
All right. Well, first of all, I thought by now the NBA would have the Supersonics back in Seattle, but they haven't, and who knows when they're going to get them. But meanwhile, the Seattle Kraken in their second year are contending for a playoff spot after a tough first year, and they're very well loved, and they paid a boatload of money to become a team, and they got one very quickly. So I got news for you. The Seattle Kraken, to me, I think they even have an African-American play-by-play guy, if I remember right. So they're doing everything right. They really are. And you know what? Seattle's a great sports town. They really are. And more power to them to get involved with the reservation. I really admire what the Kraken are doing. And if you get involved with your community in the manner that they're doing, then, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are in our last minute. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to our episode of the Pundit's Pundit. And get on over to South Florida Tribune, because coming up here in just a few minutes, Scott Morganrath is going to be hosting the Sports Exchange. Candy will be there. Jacob will be there. A couple others are going to be there. It's going to be a great time. So please get over there. If you haven't already, subscribe to the South Florida Tribune. Also, Tribune South on Twitter. That is where you can find all the latest happenings on the South Florida Tribune. So for Jacob Christner, Scott Morganrath, and Candy Ebling, this is Denzel Snipes. We will see you next week. Now, get on the South Florida Tribune, and when that's over with, come back to Sideline Sports, because Confidential will be on at 10 p.m. Eastern. See ya.
See ya.